I'd just like to start by taking a moment to reflect on the passing of one of our sport's most brilliant young athletes, a gentleman by the name of Philip Hughes, who sadly died earlier this week as a result of injuries sustained while playing cricket. It's a very sad incident for all of us in our sport, so thank you. I move on to my presentation today. I'm going to talk to you, and I'm going to stand on this box. I'm going to try a second time. Thank you. To talk about cricket. Now, I realize that when I'm in an audience of people who aren't cricket people, about a third of you think I'm going to be talking about these little insects. About a third of you probably think I'm going to be talking about an event that lasts for 5 days and still sometimes doesn't end in a result. And probably amongst the other third, somewhere in the corner there, I think I can see a couple of Indian delegates who think, oh my goodness, I've come all this way to a swimming convention and they're still talking about cricket. But I feel that from the International Cricket Council's perspective, we have some real insights that we can share with another international federation and national federations. And so I'm going to be looking at this from a very strategic perspective to really explain how, within our sport of cricket, through some clever alignment, we've been able to really drive forward the way that we deliver our major events for the benefit of spectators in the stadiums and around the world. I'm going to start by showing you, though, a slide that would have meant I wouldn't have had an invitation to this same forum about 8 years ago. This was the Cricket World Cup that took place in 2007. We hosted it in the Caribbean, this joyful part of the world where they're absolutely passionate about cricket, and unfortunately, very few people turned up. But we learned some lessons from this event, and we were able to start implementing them with almost immediate effect, starting with an event in South Africa later on that same year. We then have run, since then, the largest sporting event to take place in the Indian subcontinent in 2011. And last year, we ran the most watched sporting event in the United Kingdom. We've also, pleasingly, been back to the Caribbean and run a far more successful and celebrated event in 2011. And from a strategic international federation point of view, there have been two key drivers of change in terms of improving the event experience and spectator engagement. The first of these is alignment, the second, segmentation. Let me start by talking about alignment. Back in 2007, we were too far removed from many of our most crucial partners, the broadcasters and particularly the sponsors. All of those relationships were managed through agencies. And we, the International Cricket Council, had a vision for what we wanted for our sport and its formats. But unfortunately, the vision that the sponsors and the broadcasters had was somewhat different. They had their own agendas that they wanted to pursue, either in different parts of the world or with different audience segments. By bringing those relationships closer, by starting to service them in-house and centrally, internationally, we started to develop a much stronger alignment. That links to the next point, which is marketing. Right up until that point in time, marketing for the International Cricket Council was very much something we gave to our host to help them sell tickets. Your marketing was all about how many people we could get into the venue. And our broadcaster went off and promoted their television product to try and get people to watch it. But we were sat in the middle, really quite dormant. By centralizing that marketing plan and the ICC taking some responsibility for it, we were able to build alignment between what the broadcaster was saying, what we wanted to say through our own channels, website, social media, and what the host was doing in terms of trying to sell tickets. It drove economies of scale and also quality in terms of the product. And the third thing that we did is take greater control of the budget, a line-by-line review of the budget and management of that from a central point of view. That doesn't mean micromanagement by any means, but what it gave us was the opportunity to focus on key areas of the event. So while I'm talking about the strategic stuff, and Greg here will come in a little while and talk about the detail that happens on the ground, we wanted our international involvement with that, working with the host to make sure there was continuity between events in terms of the quality of the presentation, but also crucially that what went on in the ground really linked closely to what the broadcaster was doing globally, so that those two experiences really married with each other, and that the local event presentation had full access to what the broadcaster was doing. So that's alignment, and now I move on to segmentation. And there are three key parts of this: by format, by location, and between the local and global presentation of our sport. I start off with format. As I said, there's about a third of you in the room who probably think that cricket is a 5-day game that sometimes ends in a draw. That's still the case, but we have 2 other formats of international cricket. And strategically, we want cricket to be a 3-format, or in the case of aquatics, discipline game. So we want all 3 of those formats to complement each other and thrive. Now, less than a decade ago, we recognized that the 2 formats we had at the time were not attractive and didn't meet the needs of particularly in-venue spectators, which is why we introduced a shorter format, a 3-hour format called 2020 cricket. This 2020 cricket you can see here is represented very differently from the longer traditional format of the game. The red line you see in the middle there is our 3rd format, one-day international cricket. That's been around for only about 40 years, but is the format in which we have our biggest event, the ICC Cricket World Cup. It's the highest profile event. It's also the one that raises the most of our revenue. And we were told when we introduced this 3rd format that there wasn't space in the calendar for all 3, and that middle format would get squeezed out. Now, from a spectator experience point of view, we recognized that there was a risk that the perceptions of the 3-hour format and the 7-hour format could be just a longer and a shorter version of the same game. From a tennis point of view, that's like having a 3-set or a 5-set game. And we were determined to make sure that our 2 shorter formats weren't just longer and shorter versions of exactly the same game, albeit that we still needed to retain many of the same fans to both of those formats. So we spent a lot of time and effort investing in research to try and identify how spectators and the consumers viewed those 2 different formats. And what we found was, and you can't see the detail on here, but hopefully with where those big balls are placed, you can start to see there's a little bit of difference. The difference, it's fair to say, was relatively subtle. That the 3-hour format and the 7-hour format are slightly different. What we've done through everything in terms of how we present our events, from the brand positioning all the way through to the in-venue activation, is take those 2 positions and draw them a little bit further apart to give us these 2 distinct formats of the game, so that when you attend one of these matches, when you watch it on television, you know instantly which one of the 2 you're viewing. And so from a brand point of view, this is how the shorter format looks. It's all about the impact, the color, the noise of that 3-hour explosion of entertainment. Compare that to the 7-hour, full-day, magnificent, all-in-one-day proposition that we have for the 7-hour format. And the great news in doing that is that 7 years after introducing this new format that we were told would cannibalize and destroy our middle format, what we've found is that our broadcast values and media interest in both of these formats continues to grow, such that when we went to market with our media rights all the way through to 2023, we've seen a significant uplift in the rights, not just for the new exciting short format of the game, but also for our 7-hour proposition, one-day international cricket, meaning that both formats have a long and prosperous future. The next part of segmentation really takes us into the countries in which you operate. And I'm going to do a whistle-stop tour of 3 parts of the world to illustrate this, starting here in the Middle East. This is a cricket match taking place just down the road in the UAE. It's a Pakistan cricket match. It's a predominantly Pakistani audience that are in attendance. Now, usually when you see a full stadium like this, you give yourself a nice pat on the back and say, I must have got my ticket pricing strategy absolutely right. Well done me. In this case, it has nothing to do with ticket price. The reason we've got a good attendance at this match here is because we scheduled it on the right day of the week. And the right day of the week in the UAE is a Friday. And wherever you go in the world, that's going to be a different day. But if we scheduled this same match on a Monday, Tuesday, or Wednesday, even on a Sunday, even if we'd made the ticket prices free, we would not have had anything like the attendance we have on a Friday. So crucially, you need to know where you are in the world. The second part of our whistle-stop tour takes us to my home country, the United Kingdom. Now, traditionally in cricket, people were allowed to bring alcohol into the game. It's a 7 or 8 hour day out. It's a great part of the experience for many spectators was to bring their booze with them and have a full day there. So you can imagine, as an international event owner with people from all over the world, we started to talk about this not being quite the right thing to do. We thought we'd have a real backlash. but we got a far more significant backlash when we tried to be clever and protect the rights of our commercial partners and said, oh, you can't take certain brands of crisps or potato chips into the ground. Now, of course, we're trying to attract a family audience to our events, and if you're out there for 7 hours in the English occasional sunshine, then the things that you want are snacks to keep your children busy and entertained, and the last thing you want to do is to be told when you get to the gate you're not allowed to bring them in, or to be told inside the stadium that they're 5 times more expensive than they are outside from buying them from a local supermarket. So again, this identifying what the key needs of your audience are going to be different wherever you are in the world. And the third part of making sure that we meet the needs of our local spectators takes us back to the Caribbean after that event we ran in 2007 with empty stadiums. One of the messages we were told from that 2007 event was, hang on a minute, the facilities you provided were wonderful, we're delighted with the new stadiums, but we don't want to go because you don't let us experience the event in the way that we want to do this. And we found out that rather than having to invest in significantly improved infrastructure for the 2010 event, like Wi-Fi in Guyana or Barbados, which is a very difficult thing to achieve even today, we were able to say this simple message, bring it. And the message there was not just a marketing message, but a very practical one. Because West Indies cricket fans love to take their drums and their conch shells and blow them loud at the matches. And so by giving that strong, powerful marketing message, bring it, we were able to achieve a very different feel at our events and a far higher level of spectator attendance in exactly the same facilities at very similar ticket prices to the other event that had been a disaster. The third element, of course, is balancing the needs of local and global. We've got some very simple messages for the two audiences there. When it comes to the local audience, we don't want to miss out. Now, this particular photo here fills me with pride and disappointment in equal measure. I'm proud that we've invested in a temporary large screen for the local audience. I'm disappointed that we have a decision pending so that while people are watching on TV, the local audience can't see those same replays that the people back home on TV are watching. In recent times, we complement this with an audio device that allows people within the venue to hire this for the match day and listen to the radio or television commentary while they're sitting there in the stadium. And obviously, we're investing in more and more innovative ways of achieving this as technology becomes better and better. From a global point of view, it's all about trying to make sure those watching on TV or other devices feel the atmosphere of the stadium. And we do that through our broadcast partnership and innovating in that area, but also working very closely with the commentators. It's important to us that when a commentator is working on a 3-hour match or a 7-hour match, that the way they talk about our sport is different. We're bringing in new fans through our 3-hour product. They want to know the basics of the game in a very different, simple way to those that are consuming the longer products. And we brief our commentators accordingly. We also have a new generation of match officials that are coming through, and they're much more adept with technology and communications. And over the coming years, we've just trialed it over the last couple of months, we're starting to see their communication becoming a lot more prevalent and included in the broadcast, which is going to make it a lot more insightful for spectators as well. And finally, of course, social media is giving us a new way of engaging and attracting both the TV and local audience. Those watching on TV, this is an example here of a Twitter takeover from one of our commentators. We've got over 1 million people following us on Twitter, so by this prominent former player taking over our Twitter feed, we publicize it during his commentary stint. It's on the broadcast there, so those watching can use their second screen while they're at home, but also those in the stadium can take part in that as well. So we've got this crossover between those watching on TV and those in the stadium, and that's where Greg will come in and project that on the big screen, and we have that 360 environment between the two groups of people consuming our event. So that's it really, my insights from cricket. I hope there's a little bit there that you can take back to your international federation, your national federations, and indeed those host cities that are organising aquatics events around the world. We've been able to really transform our event experience from this disappointing approach in 2007 to the full stadia and massive broadcast audiences we see today. We've done that through improving alignment of our commercial partnerships, marketing and sportainment, and crucially identifying, prioritizing and meeting the diverse needs of the local and global audiences, noting that those are different wherever they are in the world. Thank you very much for listening, and I'll hand back over now to our host. Thank you.